Hi guys. So I've been, like I've been doing these little farm homestead videos, and I've been doing some work, right, around the farm. I've been doing some farm chores, right? So I went up and I've got this real steep bank here on my driveway, and I want to prep that ground to grow something. I don't know. I've got these garden beds here that I've made out of pallets. Let me show you here. I made these, just took some pallets and ripped them down, and now I've got some horse manure, so that's always good. And then I've got these here, these garden beds that I've, low skill, low knowledge, because I don't know how to do anything. I'm not mechanically inclined necessarily, and I'm not real smart when it comes to survival things. But however, I can write a sentence and write a letter and all these worldly things. And anyway, so I'm up here the last weekend, probably like Thursday or Friday maybe, and I'm cutting a tree, trimming it back because I want to prep this ground, right? I've got some land, these things that I want to do, trees to plant and different things. So I'm like, what am I going to do with all this? Because, that's pretty steep right there. I don't know if maybe you can see how steep that is. So the dog, this is kind of a funny story. That's this dog right here, Elvis, my husband's dog. He made a little trail up and down through here because I can't get on that steep stuff. So anyway, and I just put some rocks on there so I could get up there. Kind of takes me a minute to wind up into the story. So anyway, I'm up here last weekend and I'm raking and clearing out the fence row. Had all this debris, like this debris and all this debris down here. I'll take you down. So you can see all this junk that I cut out, right? All this come from up there, right? So I'm hanging on the cliff here, cutting all this shrubbery out, these vines and all this stuff, right? And I've got big plans, right? I've got big plans. I'm going to do some stuff, right? Because I've got to get the manure up there and condition the soil and lime and anyway, all this. Then I realized that evening that I apparently got into some poison ivy. And last April, when we were all on quarantine, I got into poison ivy, and it was really, really bad, and actually has scarred my hand, my arm actually, scarred my arm. I'm not sure if you can see it. Let's see if I can get it here. Maybe I can get the sun on it. Not sure if you can, might not be able to see it. Anyway, so it scarred my arm last year, and I had this poison ivy for a really long time, maybe weeks, almost a month maybe. Well, I got into it again. I don't know if you can see that. And I've got 3 spots. I've got this spot, and then I've got this little spot, and then this other spot on this side. So I've got this poison ivy problem on my arm, and it's really itchy, right? And I can't hold the phone and my point at the same time, but like this part right here, you can see is like secondary infection. Let's see if I can do this with my hand. I'm not doing well here I'm not doing well. Anyway, like the main spot is a spot, but up here, up toward my wrist, is like a secondary infection from scratching. So what occurs is, like in the middle of the night, it just starts itching for no reason, like I'm sleeping or whatever, and it just tremendously, it itches uncontrollably. And I know that if I scratch it, it's going to get really bad, because last year I scratched it and it was really bad. And so I struggled now for the last few days. And I think the Lord put on me a parable of the poison ivy. And I'm going to liken it to our sin problem. It was not my intention to get up into the poison ivy, which I'll relate to sin. It's not my intention. It's not anybody's that's born again. It's not our intention to sin. But sometimes we just step into it and don't realize it. Like it's creepy. Not creepy like weird, but it creeps up on you. Like Satan, the enemy, is like a roaring lion seeking whom he may devour. So he's subtle and he sneaks in and he gets you when you least expect it, right? So this poison ivy snuck in on me. And then when I was aware of it, I'm like, uh-oh, I got a problem, because this is going to be bad if I scratch it. If I scratch it and inflame not only the sore itself, but all the tissue around it. I'm not sure if you can see that, but there's like these little seeping sores where I have tried to not scratch it, but still kind of scratch it. And anyway, so the sin sometimes that we find ourselves in, even after we struggle not to do it, we end up in a situation that is sinful. So we've got to get out of it. We have to stop it and not allow it to go into an extreme situation. So if I would have continued to scratch my arm, which it's going to be difficult because I get these attacks, like spiritual attacks. I get these attacks in the middle of the night, and it's like, oh my goodness, I've got to scratch this thing. And, then my fingernails and all that, it's going to cause me a big problem. So I have to resist it. I have to resist the intense itching. Otherwise, I'm going to have a bad problem, a worse problem. And our sin nature, if we step in sin and find ourselves in a situation, we've got to get out of it. We have to resist the devil and let him flee from us. We have to resist it. We have to stop it. We cannot go any further into it. We can't allow it to continue, or we're going to have really bad problems. And that's kind of the parable of the poison ivy. It's not, sometimes, when we repent and we keep our garments clean and white, and we, try to stay straight and walk that narrow path, sometimes we still struggle with something. Like something rears its ugly head, maybe that we've put away, that we've, know it's a problem and try to avoid it, but yet we find ourselves in some type of a situation. So, that's the daily struggle of somebody that's walking the narrow righteous path. And when we discover that we have a problem, we don't endeavor into it any further. We have to literally get away from it, or it's going to be really bad, really bad. It's going to leave scars, right? And so I just hope that this message is encouraging. It's not an open rebuke at all, because we all are still in our flesh suits. We are in our meat sack flesh bodies, so we are always going to be subject to some kind of an attack of the flesh, right? Whether it's, lust of the flesh, lust of the eyes, or the pride of life. We want to nip those way back. We want to cut those way back. We want to crucify the flesh always, and always pray without ceasing. But sometimes, in our walk, we sometimes bump into something that we'd rather not. And we have to have the discernment to know, like, oops, this was bad, let's back it up. We don't endeavor further. We don't continue to scratch. Oh, you don't need to see my glasses. But we don't continue to scratch. See, where I've tried to squeeze and not scratch it, I've tried to just like squeeze it to take the pressure off. But anyway, if I would scratch that, my whole arm would be this way and have those blisters, because I think the poison in the poison ivy, when it oozes out of those little blisters, that ooze goes all over your arm or wherever, and then the whole arm is affected. Just like last year is what happened to me. I just scratched it and it went wild. So sin is the same way as poison ivy. I didn't recognize the poison ivy up there. I didn't see it. Or otherwise I would have avoided it. I would have approached it a different way. But it was meshed in there and tangled in, the honeysuckle and these other vines that are there, that I know what those are. But when I was, I just accidentally stumbled into it. And that's how sin is. That's how sin gets us. It looks innocent and not even a problem. Like you don't even see it until, you've stepped into it. Which I have plenty of dogs, right? I've got dogs. And I can tell you, stepping in something that you don't want to step in the night or whenever you least expect it is not a good thing either. And so you got to get it off of you. But that's the parable of the poop. That's another story. We're on parable of the poison ivy right now. So anyway, guys, I hope this message has been a blessing to you. And I hope that you benefit from it and see that sometimes we get into situations that are mostly avoidable, but sometimes they're not. But we have to recognize the problem before it gets out of control. So I'm going to pray for you all, and I hope you pray for me. And we're just struggling to get through. We're struggling to get through each and every day. And today is the day the Lord has made, and I'm going to rejoice and be glad in it. Looks like they're waxing the sky on me here. They're waxing the sky. So I expect, I think they said that we're going to get rain here in a day or two. So usually 24 to 48 hours, they turn the sky this white color. And then the rain comes. So I'm sure that's all natural, right? But that's another story, another parable for another day. So have a blessed day in Jesus' name.